Hi, everybody. Welcome to the first day of March. Also, welcome to a very special edition of Car Contemplations. Today is a very special edition because today marks 50 years of Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. Now, this is probably one of the most important albums of all time. It's been called the greatest album of all time by hundreds of thousands of people. Like, this album is just fantastic. Every song on it is a fucking masterpiece. And I just kind of wanted to talk to you all today about not necessarily the impact it's had on the music industry and all of that, because like there are so many videos that you will be seeing and have seen probably that could tell you the exact same thing. Like, oh, it's been, astronomical to the prog rock genre and, just to music in general over the past 50 years. What I thought I could add to the conversation was like how it affected my life and some of the people around me that also just love this fantastic album. So, I first discovered this album, I don't even remember exactly when. I think the first time I actually listened to it all the way through was in high school, but I think I've known about it since I was about 6 or 7 years old. I mostly, when I found out about it, like, originally, I mostly knew the Prism album cover. I think, if I remember this right, someone I knew had a poster of it up, or like a picture of it or something, because I don't really remember if I would have seen the actual album cover on an album. See, the thing is, we had this box set called Shine On that had I think we still have it actually. It's essentially some of Pink Floyd's biggest albums. It has ones like Saucer Full of Secrets, The Wall, Momentary Lapse of Reason, Animals, Wish You Were Here. I can't remember if it had The Division Bell, but obviously it had Dark Side of the Moon. Some of their biggest and most influential albums over the years. And I specifically remember that box set because on the front cover of it there was a picture of like naked bodies coming out of the water, like shooting up out of the water, and I remember that because like, oh, kids aren't supposed to see that, so that obviously that's what I remember. Why the fuck am I saying this? Anyway, so yeah, I remember that, but I don't remember ever like sitting down and listening to the album because I was like, oh, that looks like adult music. That's not really what I listen to. What I listen to is, not that. But yeah, so that's kind of how I first discovered like the concept of the album, I guess. I remember very vaguely listening to, it was either Time or Money, I can't remember which, but it was in my dad's car, and I do, you know what, I think it was Money, because I was asking him like, oh, why are there cash registers in this song, something like that, and he's like, he probably explained it, but I don't remember really. All I know is that was when I was extremely young and naive to anything actually quality. So let's fast forward to years later. I'm in my school hallway, and if I'm being completely honest, it had just slipped my mind. Like, I didn't really know like anything about Pink Floyd or what it was about or anything. Like, I vaguely knew that they were a thing, but I didn't really understand it, I guess. So one day I'm on Apple Music, where I listen to all my music, and Spotify people, you could come at me all you want, but I will always be an Apple Music person. that's off topic. Anyway, so I'm scrolling through Apple Music and I find their page, and I remember it sticking out to me because they had a weird picture on their profile. I think it's changed since then. If I remember right, it was the album cover that they used for Relics, one of their compilation albums. So I just remember that and thinking, oh, that's weird. What is this? And I clicked on it, and I went through and I saw the Dark Side of the Moon album cover, and I'm like, oh, that's what it. Okay, I know that, I guess. So I'm just going to download that album. And then I went through, and at that time I was adamant about downloading any album that looked remotely interesting to me. So I went through and I downloaded every single Pink Floyd album, but I didn't listen to any of them. I did not listen to a single one of them. And I just had them on my phone. Eventually I deleted all of them, but I kept Dark Side of the Moon because I thought, most people know about this album. I should probably listen to it at some point. And then I just forgot about it. I never touched it. I never listened to it. And then it was about a year later, and most of you who have watched this channel know that I was on Nostalgia Critic. I was like in a cameo or whatever on Nostalgia Critic, and you can find that video on my channel. I'll link it in the description of this. But I was because of that, I was like really into the whole Nostalgia Critic thing. And if I'm being completely honest, I still watch the show every week. Like, I don't know, it's just comfort food. Anyway, so yeah, I saw that they were coming out with this review of Pink Floyd The Wall. And I said, oh, okay, I don't really know what this is, but it looks interesting. I mean, weird animation, cool. Yeah, let's watch it. And it comes out. And keep in mind, I had never listened to the Wall album. I had no idea about any of that. No idea. Never seen the Wall movie, never listened to the Wall album at that time. I watched the Wall review and downloaded the entire Nostalgia Critic The Wall album. And I honestly didn't really realize that he was doing direct parodies, if you want to call it that, of the Wall album. And I took the album to my mother and I said, look at this really cool album. And I start playing it and she's like, this is The Wall. And I'm like, yeah, it's Nostalgia Critic's The Wall. And she was like, no, this is wrong. And she had me look up Pink Floyd's The Wall and play it. And let me just tell you that ever since that day, my life has forever changed. Because I listened to The Wall. And it was immaculate. It was like one of the most important things I have ever listened to. And I immediately downloaded it. Like right after I finished listening to it, because I'm like, I gotta listen to this all the time. And then that's when I realized, oh, I haven't listened to Dark Side of the Moon. And that's like their most popular album. If I like The Wall, then I gotta like Dark Side of the Moon, right? I mean, it seems very, very strange not to like that if I like this. So essentially I went into it as a newbie, which I suppose that's how most people find out about Pink Floyd, as a newbie. But coming off of the Nostalgia Critic video, it was weird to say the least, looking back on it now. But anyway, I sat down and I listened to Dark Side of the Moon. And I think in that moment, I don't want to give you this bullshit about like, oh, my third eye opened up and like everything just makes sense now and blah 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 blah, and like, you know, I'm a totally changed person. But in a way, I kind of was, if I'm being completely honest. Like, I don't think I've ever had a first time listening experience akin to what it was listening to Dark Side. My birthday was about a week after that Nostalgia Critic review came out, and I listened to those albums for the first time on my phone. And I had just recently gotten a record player. And we went down to the record store on my birthday, and I was able to pick out some albums. And I got The Wall and Dark Side of the Moon on vinyl. They were some of the first new vinyl, like new pressings of vinyl that I bought. Because my initial set was like really old stuff from my grandparents' collection, because they gave me the record player. And then I got a whole bunch of other like open stuff at the record store, and I also got Back in Black, which was my first new record. But this was still, you know, relatively new, I guess. I'm going off on another fucking tangent, Jesus. So, I gotta say, if you've never listened to Dark Side of the Moon on vinyl, do it. Fucking do it. It's one of those things that you just can't believe is real, but it's fucking real. It is. I don't even really know how to describe it in a logical way, but the feeling I got when I listened to it on vinyl for the first time was nothing short of transcendent. I just felt different. Like, I felt, I don't want to say like, oh, I felt like life was going to be easier, but I knew in that moment that life was just going to be somewhat different than it was before that. And it's weird because like I had never you know, you talk about like, oh, I saw this piece of art and it changed my life. I had moments like that before. For example, first time I ever watched Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey, that was one of those times where I'm like, oh my god, everything's different. This was another time. And it was different than The Wall, because I knew, like, when I was listening to The Wall, and I also knew from like the Nostalgia Critic video that this was something that had a story to it. You know, there was like, it's a rock opera essentially. The Dark Side of the Moon album is a concept album, and there's just something about it, and anyone that's listened to it knows that there's something about that album that just is beyond words. Like the way it opens up, starting out with "Speak to Me and Breathe in the Air." Like the slow build up, and then just a punch right at the start. It's so cool. And then On the Run, it makes you think about what you just heard because there's no lyrics. And then Time, I don't know if you can call any singular thing perfect or, you know, gaining perfection, because everything has flaws, of course, but I don't think you're ever going to hear something that is closer to perfection than Time. It's beautiful. It's just beautiful. And then Great Gig in the Sky, I get teary-eyed. Anytime I sit down and seriously listen to this album and Great Gig in the Sky comes on, I start to get teary-eyed. And I don't cry. I don't cry very much. Anything that can make me cry is doing its job correctly. And that always makes me, it doesn't make me cry full on, but it comes damn well close. Damn close. And then side 2 starts out with just the masterpiece of Money. It's right after hearing such a hard-hitting track with Great Gig in the Sky, something that is so poignant without a single word said. It's just amazing. It gives you that upbeat, happy melody, even though absolutely everything that they're saying is essentially like the worst type of thing. Because obviously it's all about capitalism and how it's, completely wrong. And it makes you, but it does it in a way where if it was someone really, really good at business singing it to you, you might actually start to believe them. Like, the words are just that good. It makes you think that you can achieve these things. There's so much snow on the ground. Anyway, so after that comes another just every single track on this album, maybe with the exception of On the Run, because it just goes on for a little too long, is like 10 out of 10. Everything on this album is just amazing. Some of the best music ever put to anything. So yeah, after Money comes Us and Them, which is honestly one of the most beautiful songs you could find anywhere. Fucking anywhere. Like, I don't fucking understand how they got this album so perfect. Anyway, Us and Them is almost like a poem put to music. Have you ever heard the song Trees? I think that I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree. That was a poem. And then they put music to it. They put music and turned it into like a more flowing song. And it's like one of the most popular recordings ever from the time it came out. And it's so easy to see why. Because they really did a good job taking that poem and putting it to music. Another example, before I get back to that, Ode to Joy, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. That is a poem. That's a very famous poem that was written in Germany. And Beethoven took it, he put music to it, and he created one of the greatest symphonies ever, the choral, the Ninth. It feels like one of the band members wrote a poem called Us and Them. And then another one, or even the same one, said, this is so good, it deserves to be on our album. And they wrote music to accompany the lyrics, or the words, and they recorded it and put it on the album, and turned it into one of the most beautiful things ever written. Everything about it is just, again, that perfection. Like, you're not going to hear much else that's that close to perfection. And it's just a fact. The guy just tried to hitch a ride. I know people still did that. Guy walking down the street and he held out his thumb. Anyway, where was I? So, us and them. And then any color you like. This, I think, is a... Actually, I want to talk about this song. So, any color... People mostly play Brain Damage and Eclipse together because it flows so well. Honestly, I think if you were to play any color you like, Brain Damage and Eclipse, just in that order on the radio, it would be much, much better. Because all three of those songs are just perfect. They're perfect together. But anyway, any color you like. That goes towards the prism design. You know, it makes you feel like, honestly, it makes you feel like you can hear the colors. The guitar work is so fucking amazing that it makes you feel like you can actually hear the colors, not singing, but like, yeah, I guess, like the colors are singing to you through the guitar. That's a weird analogy, but it works. It works. I think. Maybe. I don't know. Fuck me. And then, of course, you have the 1-2 punch of Brain Damage and Eclipse. Brain Damage is just immaculate. It's so good. I'm running out of things to say, out of adjectives, I guess, without just saying it's so fucking good. Because, like, everything about it is so good. I don't want to be repeating myself, but I can't. I can't not. It is, like, just perfection. Every single thing about it is fucking perfection. And then, you know, fucking Eclipse, man. Fucking Eclipse. What can you say about Eclipse? Well, I'll say so. Eclipse is one of those things that you cannot live without hearing. Like, it should be illegal to go through life and not hear at least Eclipse. If nothing else on the album, I say that Eclipse is probably the most important. All that you touch, all that you see, all that you taste. I can't fucking remember all of it right now. But, like, the very end of that song is just so amazing. Everything under the sun is in tune, but the sun is eclipsed by the moon. Just thinking about it brings, you can see it, it brings a smile to my face. Because, honestly, the album is not happy. It is not a happy album. Like, even the songs that are upbeat are not supposed to make you feel good. It's supposed to make you feel sad. But the way that they do it is just... like, honestly, you do kind of feel like shit while you're listening to it, but by the end, when Eclipse finishes out, all of that heartbreak, all of that down feeling that you have when you're listening to it for the first time, it just, it cancels all of that out. It says, hey, you know what? The world is shit. We can't deny that. But you got to understand that you can't live your life feeling like shit. You can't go through life feeling like shit 24/7. Because if you do that, then basically our point has been made. So, hitch up your bootstraps, get back out there. Everything's going to be okay in the end. We just have to get through it. And it feels like they're saying, it's okay to be scared. We're all scared. We know this life is not going to be the greatest, but we have to live through it anyway, so this is your tool. This is your escape. Come back when you need to, because we'll be here. I don't know. That's just my interpretation of it. There are so many other great things you can talk about in this album. Like, the lady, I can't remember her name, but she was like a sound designer on the album. And they brought her in and just said, okay, moan into the microphone like you're thinking about death. And that became the Great Gig in the Sky voice. Just like, and there's an interview with her somewhere online where she said they were sitting there in the booth, completely stony-faced. Like, and I thought, oh, they aren't going to use any of this. And then I got a phone call when it came out and said, your voice is on the album. You're like credited on the album. And she was like so surprised. I can't remember her name. But other things too, like just the voices that come on and say like, oh, I've always been mad. I know I've always been mad. And, you know, yeah, I can't. Why the fuck did I not listen to the album before I made this video? Fuck. That would have been so much better if I listened to the whole thing and then came on and said, oh, this is what I think of it. Ugh, fuck. I haven't listened to the album in so long. God damn. I'm gonna have to listen to it today. Just because I'm making this tribute. But other things, just like instrumentals, the vocal talent of Roger Waters, David Gilmour's guitar work, everything about this fucking album is just perfect. It is perfect. And honestly, I don't really know what else to say. Like I said, there are going to be a lot of videos today, I'm sure, just praising the shit out of this album. And deservedly so. Deservedly so. So go watch those if you want a more in-depth take on the album, because there have been a lot of great videos. One I would definitely go watch is Vinyl Rewind's making of Dark Side of the Moon. That's a really good one. And then also, just like, if you haven't gotten the message from me yet, go listen to the album today. Just, even if you're like at work and you have your headphones in or whatever, just listen to the album, for God's sake. It's so good. If you've listened to it before, listen to it again. Nobody's going to fucking kill you because of that. It's just a perfect album. It's a perfect concept. And that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to listen to Dark Side of the Moon right now. Probably going to listen to it more than once today. I'm supposed to get on Discord later tonight and listen to it with a few of my friends. I don't know, man. It's just so good. It's so fucking good. I've been talking for 30 minutes. I'm going to stop. This is almost like a podcast now. Thank you for watching this episode of Car Contemplations. I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you again next time. Take care.